So we are live with Gina Stockdahl of Maryland Jean Designs. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Great. I was like, oh no. Well, I today we want to talk about branding for nonprofits, marketing, how that can help in your fundraising efforts. And I would love for you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little about you.
Sure. So, like you said, my name is Gina. I am a wife and a mom of two boys. They are 6 and 3, and we homeschool. So, we are definitely busy in this household. But I am one of those weird people that totally thrives on chaos. Um, so, then I graduated with my degree in graphic design in 2021. And that's when I started Maryland Jean Designs. I just wanted to do some freelancing while home with the kids. And then it kind of blossomed into marketing and branding and doing other types of things like that for nonprofits and churches. Um,
Was
over
that
the
always was that always your intended area of focus, or did you just kind of fall into it?
I fell into it because I am, a admin assistant for a nonprofit by day, and I volunteer at the church a lot, and so I'm more just in that sector naturally. And
Sure.
so why not kind of focus more on where I'm used to being? And then I also feel like the nonprofits are incredibly underserved. And
Hmm.
so, there's plenty of people out there to help with small businesses. We need to make more time for the people that are actually like trying to build up the community, right? So that's me kind of in a nutshell.
Well, thank you for being here today. So can you share a little bit about your experience just with marketing and branding and what that looks like with your clients or with your organization that you work with?
Sure. So when it comes to like branding and things like that, I tend to design the logos more so than anything.
Mhm.
And now I've morphed into where I will put together your whole brand. So I will help you pick out your color palette. I will help you create your logo. We kind of go with what fonts you're going to be using because you don't want to use more than two fonts. That goes for like your website and your social media graphics and things like that because you want everything to be very, smooth and streamlined.
Mhm.
Um, and kind of build you a brand guide. So that way you and your volunteers and your, sponsor, anybody that's going to be using your stuff can just revert to this brand guide to have it reflect off of your organization. And so I kind of help you go step by step through creating that process if you're brand new. I recently, when I say recently, last year, just completely rebranded a nonprofit out of Ohio. Um, so basically, what that is, I updated their logo because it was getting kind of outdated. And then we took the same color scheme and kind of added two colors to start making it pop. And just, I didn't change their look, but we updated it.
Mhm.
Right. Um, so that's that because I also understand that a lot of nonprofit leaders, they don't have a background in this.
Mhm.
And so that's where I come in.
Sure.
And, so basically we kind of do that. And so by doing that though, now you're going to have the recognition out in the community because people are going to start recognizing your the color scheme and your logo and all those types of things and associate it with what you guys do.
Right.
So it is incredibly important to have that down pat and to
Yes, that was going to be my next question because I feel like, with just in the nonprofit world, um, nonprofits, organizations need to use their budgets really wisely, and it's usually a tight budget. So can you just talk a little bit more about what the importance is around branding, how that can help nonprofits to have a really cohesive brand?
sure. So when it comes to that, it's like you obviously want the recognition just like a small business, right? And so you want people to see, whatever your little logo is and instantly think of you, or even like your colors. So for example, my personal business colors are black and pink. I did that for a couple different reasons. And for those of you who will work with me, we go into color psychology a lot. That's a huge thing for your brand because you want people to feel a certain way. and to think of certain things whenever they think of your brand.
Mhm.
For myself, I am obviously a woman that owns a business. And so having such a bright pink is very feminine but powerful,
Mhm.
right? And so you kind of want to think along those lines too. But now I even have comments, from previous clients. They're like, oh, I saw something black and pink and thought of you today because that's what my brand color is.
That's
And
exactly what you want.
yes, that is the goal, right? For another example, the nonprofit I work for, the main colors are like purple and yellow. And so anytime I see that color combination, I instantly think of it because I'm surrounded by it. And that's what I see on a normal basis. And so I automatically think of that nonprofit and what we're doing. And so you want your community to kind of do the same thing because the more that you are on their mind, the more they're going to start kind of pay attention to what you're doing. The more they're paying attention, the more likely they are to become some way involved, whether it's being a donor, a volunteer, whatever, then
This first step, they have to know about you
yes.
before they can become engaged with you.
Yes. And another big thing that I don't think a lot of people kind of think about is by having an established branding guide, which is, like having an established brand like that is going to help you look more legitimate. It's not like you're not just thrown together, if that makes sense.
Right.
Um, which would make them feel more comfortable to support you financially. So
Yeah.
that's a big, big
It's
deal.
that like no like trust factor, right? With marketing, where
Right.
if you are a little bit more cohesive in your branding, then um, all of those things kind of fall in line.
Yes. Yeah. Because, obviously these people with giving like getting donations, it's not the same as a small business in the fact that they are going to technically get something back usually.
Mhm.
Um, and so you want to make sure that you make them feel as comfortable as possible and, to give them for them to give you their money. And
Right.
so
Yeah, there's still a trust factor, right? Because you want to know that they're spending the money appropriately and
correct.
yeah, so I imagine that's a big one with marketing.
Hmm. Yeah, because I mean, I've worked with a couple of them that they're like, well, we don't get a whole lot of donors, and I'd look at like their website and their social media, and none of it was. I'm like, I probably wouldn't even give you my money either, and I know you. So it's like, let's get this looking real, real sharp. And then people are gonna be like, oh, okay, so they're actually doing what they're saying that they're doing.
Mm.
The unfortunate part is, there are a lot of scams out there. And it's because of that that we want to look as put together as possible so people don't mistake us for somebody that's not doing what we're saying we're doing.
Right. And I imagine there's some generational things that go into play too, right? Where younger donors might be more apt to be looking at social media and branding and paying attention to their website. So that's kind of the next generation of people that we're all trying to draw in.
Yes. And that's kind of how whenever you think of nonprofit marketing, you do have to think of your target donors. Are your main donors going to be kind of in the 50 plus, or are they going to be more 25 plus? Because that's when you're going to know where to put your efforts.
Mhm.
Um, Example, like the nonprofit that I work for, a majority of our donors are probably about 45 and over. And so by doing mailers, we get a really good response,
Mhm.
because that's we're used to getting things in the mail, actually checking their mail, actually reading their mail.
Yeah,
'Cause I'll even admit, like at 31, I don't pay attention to my mail a whole lot.
sure.
Um, However, for me, if you email me, I'm more likely to actually read it and pay attention to what it is. And so you really have to pay attention in that aspect of what would your ideal donor be, roughly, and kind of go from there. And that way, your marketing efforts and your marketing budget is used appropriately.
Right. Is that something that you do as well? Mailers and things of that nature?
We have not had anybody request a mailing, campaign
Mhm.
just yet. However, I do have practice with doing it from just my day job.
Sure.
Um, Sorry, my cat just
Mhm.
jump topic thing. But you know, so I have not done that for a client yet, but I do that for my day job.
Well, I
Um,
think I think that's all good points that you're making though, because I would say that's probably across the board that most nonprofits are getting the majority of their donations from an older
mhm.
group. That's just the nature of giving, who has the most wealth. And then but it will trickle down. So it's almost like, how do you kind of capture all sides of capturing where your donor base is now, with things like mailers, and then how do you bring in the next generation?
Yeah, we've been kind of discussing that, like my clients and I recently. And I have to say, and I know some people are going to disagree, but I think if you're not on TikTok, you're doing yourself a disservice. And the reason why I say that is because the youngest generation currently uses TikTok more than Google as a search engine.
Wow. And
My,
so I'm 10 years older than you. So you say
yeah.
that to me, I'm like, ooh,
Oh,
TikTok.
yeah, no. So just, you know, for funsies, my brother is 22. And when he found out that I'm older than Google, that blew his mind. And so I do try to think whenever I'm like, okay, marketing to 20-year-olds, what would my brother look like, you know, look for? And by doing that, I kind of started thinking like, okay, well, my sister's also 23, so I kind of pick on her too because she's definitely more the social media guru of the two. But she's like, I constantly talking about like, well, I saw on TikTok about XYZ. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then I started going to kind of like TikTok courses, you know, to learn how to market on them. And that's when they were like, children from like, I don't know, it was like 2009 and, you know, up are now going to go to, like, if they are sick or if they need to know a fact, they will go to TikTok versus Google.
Wow.
And so now, if they're going to be researching a business or a nonprofit, they will
Mhm.
go to TikTok versus Google. So I
Wow.
feel like if you're not on there or have some sort of a presence on there, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because you won't be found if you're looking for the younger donors.
Sure.
So like
Yeah.
I
More reason why people should hire you if you're like me and you hear the word and
Oh, yeah. I'll admit that I only started like my personal, like individual one back in 2020 when I was stuck at home because I was stuck at home with a 2-year-old and was really bored. But with my like what's the word, professional one, I just kind of whatever I use for reels on my Facebook and Instagram, I just also post there. You know,
Mhm.
so at least I have a presence there. And by doing that, I have gotten clients just by doing that. I don't have to sit there and post 3 times a day. I don't have to sit there and post and have huge, you know, extra strategies or anything like that. Whatever you're doing for your Facebook and Instagram, you can do there
Mhm.
just to at least have um, a presence there.
Yeah. Working smarter, not harder.
That is my whole goal for everybody.
Yes.
All busy, so just do what you can, right?
And so, do you do anything in your marketing with storytelling
Oh,
and bringing that out? And can you talk a little bit about how that might play a role in nonprofits marketing?
yeah. So I think storytelling is probably the number one thing that nonprofits need to do outside of like the obvious.
Mhm.
Mainly because, like I said before, whenever a donor gives, you know, 9 times out of 10, we don't receive anything back. We're not exchanging our money for an item, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, where's my hard-earned money going? And so by having this storytelling, I know for a fact that you're using my money wisely. I know that my money is impacting the community that that particular organization is serving. And by knowing that that impact is being made, I am more likely to give again and to continue to keep up my recurring donation. So I really do think that that's like the number one thing that you should focus on if you're just starting is get that part of storytelling down, or find somebody who can because it's huge.
Mhm.
That's also what's going to kind of lure new people in is reading these new stories or having the new videos up, what have you. And that's how you're going to kind of get new volunteers and new, because that's how we get a lot of our mission team members is like the videos that we create from our previous missions and people are inspired to go. So it's really a good way to let people know what you're doing. So bring awareness to your organization, but to also let them know, like, thank you so much for supporting us. You really are making a difference with that like $10 recurring thing that you're giving us, you know?
Mm,
Um,
right.
and that's the most important part when it comes to the donor, organization relationship, is for them to understand just how they're helping.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, just really showcasing that impact, but doing it kind of um, through what you're doing, through other people, how you're serving. So yeah, I love that.
mhm.
Um, and so how would you approach building a community or just really trying to gather, let's say it's a brand new nonprofit and they were to come to you of we're just starting out fresh. How can we build this community? Where do you even start?
So like starting on your social media, you mean? Um,
Or just with any of it. Like how would you approach trying to get started and
sure.
find your first donors?
Sure. So my first thing would be like get yourself a social media base, because of we're in a very like tech forward society at this point, right? Um, Statistically speaking, if you do not have like an active Facebook, people are not going to think you're legitimate, which is, kind of again goes to more toward like the older donors, because like you and
Sure,
I would be found on Facebook more so than anything else.
sure.
The younger generation again is on TikTok and Instagram, which is why I kind of push Facebook and Instagram more than the other two, because you're going to kind of evenly get to both fields at that point.
Mhm,
And you don't need separate strategies, for just starting out, like that bare minimum, right?
mhm.
And when it comes to that, you don't have to post every day, and they don't have to be huge, beautiful posts right away. Like, okay, you'll get there, I promise, but they don't have to be perfect right away. Um,
I think it is intimidating for a lot of people and maybe they do want to market themselves, but
yeah,
it's it's like a block.
yeah, like
Because
you develop the skill set as you go. Like even as a professional who has a graphic design degree, if you look at my like when I first started out graphics versus now, there's a huge difference. So giving yourself grace, I think, is the number one step. You will get there. It's not going to be overnight. But I definitely would sit down, think about, so like we're in January right now. Think about what you want for February. Are you guys going to be having any type of fundraisers? Do you want to focus on a specific topic? So like if your organization is for like heart health, February is heart health month. Um, and then kind of just like write out ideas of posts around that.
Mhm.
Um, as a minimum, I would say you should post twice a week, and you need to pick two days. So example, let's say you and I are starting out brand new. We're going to post every Monday and Friday at the same time, you know. And the reason why you want to do that is Facebook and Instagram are very finicky about their algorithms.
Mhm.
And so if you were to just post whenever you want to, they will not push your stuff out into the feed. Um, and so by having a designated day, it's like, oh, okay. And it's more likely to to have your followers see your stuff. I think if Facebook currently is at 8%. So like 8% of your followers will actually see your stuff.
Wow.
And I think Instagram's not that far behind on it.
Mhm.
Um, so my number one out of giving yourself some grace, pick 2 days, doesn't really matter which days, whatever works for you.
Right.
I always say to post between 9 and 10 in the morning is usually when you'll get the best engagement and reach. And then 3 is to pick one day a week, doesn't matter which one, and sit down and just do some engagement. So if you're going to be on your Facebook page, you know how you can switch between the profiles. If
Mhm.
go to your business Facebook page, like 10 posts of pages that you follow, comment on 10 separate posts. So it's 20 posts total. This takes like maybe 10 minutes.
Sure.
And then follow 10 new pages. So if your example, I'm in Kansas City. If you're an organization in Kansas City, you're going to start following like the small business pages of the businesses in the area because those are going to most likely be the people that start supporting you, right? Because small businesses and organizations tend to work together to bring the community, together and to fix whatever the problem might be. This is also going to be helpful in people starting to know who you are. They're going to start following you back. You'll start having kind of a relationship on there. That's a big way of just kind of getting your name out there for free. And it doesn't take that much effort. It takes maybe 30 minutes a week. But that's going to be the biggest way for you to actually get your name out and to have people start following you if you're interacting on their page, that they'll most likely return the favor.
And that's all something that is absolutely free to do.
Yes.
So that's a helpful thing, I think, for nonprofits too, to think about it as free advertising, free marketing.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing because like even as a small business owner, we don't have a lot of capital right at the beginning, right? So like what can we do right away? And that again gets your name out there. It also kind of starts to show your personality in your comments, those types of things. So you can really start building rapport with these people, and then that's how you can have them donate to your fundraisers or sponsor something or be a recurring donor because you took that step to start a relationship to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And okay, so how would you measure success of marketing and branding efforts? Of course, we could think about in the fundraising world as dollars in the door, but I'm sure it's not that direct of a correlation of we got our brand and this is how much we raised. I mean, maybe at the end of the year, but are there other ways that you would measure your marketing and branding success?
Yes. So the number one number that I like to look at is how many people, like how many new followers did we get,
Mm.
right? Because that means that we're actually attracting them to where they want to continue to engage with us. So typically, at the beginning of the quarter, I do it by quarter. How many roughly followers are we wanting to have by the end of the quarter? And then you kind of focus on trying to get that. And then Facebook too, like if you use the Meta Business Suite, because Facebook and Instagram are tied together on there because they're owned by the people now. You can analyze by the month, by the week, by the quarter, whatever it is that your particular campaign is. You can do it by engagement. It'll tell you whether you did a good, did those posted well or they didn't.
Mhm.
Then by reach. Now, reach can be kind of confusing for some people that aren't tech savvy. That does not mean how many people like interacted with your post. That is how many people actually saw it. And
Mhm.
that's the second number that you really want to focus on because even though they're not engaging, they're watching,
Mhm.
right? And so you want to kind of look at how much reach are we getting? Because if you're getting 1,200 people per post, but only like 8 likes, but you're still getting 1,200 people watching what you're doing.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so really I focus more on how many followers did we gain? How much reach are we getting? If my reach went down, then okay, we need to you need to switch something up.
Mhm.
And then you can obviously you want engagement too. So you want to pay attention to that number, but I don't think they're as important as the other two.
Sure. Yeah. Well, this has been so great chatting with you. Is there anything else you would like to add? Any quick tips for nonprofits?
I would say just don't overthink it. I know it's really scary and really easy to do. Keep it simple. If you're just now starting out on your marketing, you can simply just kind of start talking about what your mission statement is. You can talk about core values if you have those in your bylaws, those types of things, and just kind of build onto it from there.
Mhm.
If you guys want some extra, help with that, we do marketing strategy calls. And so therefore I would help you guys put together a content calendar and then you guys can go and do your thing. That's probably the easiest thing for people that are just starting out to do. So then I will tell you what to post, when to post it, all that stuff, and then you guys just schedule it out.
Mhm.
Um, but really don't overthink it. Just share the good work that you're doing, and the rest will fall back into place, I promise.
Well, great tips. And then how can people find you? Or if they're interested in your services, where can they go to connect with you?
Sure. So there's my website would probably be the number one place to go. It would be marilynjeandesigns.com. Jean is Jeanne. Just for a fun backstory, really quick, is I named the business after my late grandmother.
Um,
And so that is why the name is different than mine. But from there, you could see what our services are. We have them all listed out, and you can create, whatever appointment you want, whether it's a free 30-minute exploration call or the marketing strategy calls or what have you. Um, we are also on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, pretty much everywhere. My VA, she does all of that. But um, so pretty much any social media platform that you prefer, we're typically on.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much. This has been
Yeah.
really insightful and really helpful for a lot of people, I'm sure. It opened my eyes to a few things, especially TikTok.
Oh, yeah, I know. It's hard to think about having to do something else, especially with video, but really it's important.
Mhm. All right, Gina. Well, thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, bye-bye.